Men and women working at the United States Postal Service demonstrated in Washington, D.C. on Monday against President Trump's proposal to put the service under the control of the Commerce Department. Although a critical service, the USPS has been losing money for years and years, as much as $87 billion in losses from 2007 to 2020. It did report a net profit of $144 million for the first quarter of this fiscal year. That's its first profit since 2006. Trump wants to disband the governing board that oversees the United States Postal Service and absorb it into his own administration. Now, this could be the first step toward privatizing the quasi-governmental agency. Higher shipping costs could be the result, and it brings the future of mail-in ballots into question. Trump has blamed the loss to Joe Biden in 2020 on such ballots. Okay, let's discuss this possible takeover of the United States Postal Service. Let's bring in Jesus Salas, Associate Professor of Finance at Lehigh University. It's good to see you. Thanks for taking time to chat.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now there's been a lot of talk about privatization of the U.S. Post Office for years and years and years. Now Trump is right now moving ahead with rapid speed to reshape the U.S. government and kind of what he wants to see it as. And although he's not talking about privatization at the moment, what would it mean if Trump's Commerce Secretary would oversee the USPS?
So it's a great question. We don't really know exactly what his goal is. It is possible, to be doing this in parallel with those to reduce the workforce, for example, maybe shut down some offices, and as you said, maybe prepare the company to be privatized.
So for anybody who needs a little history lessons, the United States Postal Service is 250 years old, and federal law mandates mail delivery be available to everyone, no matter how far off the beaten path that household or business may be. Now, part of the reason the service loses billions of dollars each year, $9.5 billion in the hole just last year. So looking at how much money it's lost, is it time to tighten up the purse strings?
Yeah, I mean, there's two issues, right? So first of all, it's the issue that people are not mailing letters anymore, right? I mean, this may be a little weird for young people, but people used to mail letters instead of sending emails, and that's been going down to almost non-existent today, right? The second issue, of course, is that a lot of the revenue comes from packages and from advertisements that we hate to get in the mail, and so that's a big problem, of course. And then the third problem is really the retirement benefits that the USPS has. They have really generous retirement benefits. You got to remember that the USPS is competing with FedEx and UPS, who don't have these really generous retirement benefits. Why does the USPS have these retirement benefits? You started talking about it in the beginning, that it's a quasi-government organization, and so they consider themselves as kind of like part of the government, but they're really not. And so they have almost similar retirement benefits that other government workers have, and so that's also causing problems for the organization. In fact, Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, one of the things that he wanted to change was to allow a different way of accounting for these liabilities that come through these retirement benefits.
And Jesus, you also talked about FedEx, UPS, and while they deliver a lot of the main packages that we get every day, if you're really off the beaten path, the Postal Service really does the kind of the last mile. So they will do a lot of work that other agencies won't. So it does kind of lead to the question, how would what Trump is proposing impact mail delivery, especially in rural areas? Medicine, mail-in voting, Social Security, a host of critically important entities.
Yeah, no, so first of all, to be clear, Amazon actually hires USPS, right? So a lot of the service that Amazon doesn't want to do, that UPS doesn't want to do because it's just too expensive, the USPS handles those types of deliveries, right? So this is obviously a big problem. So I mentioned in the beginning that the federal government may choose, for example, to close some of these offices in rural areas. They would still have to deliver to these rural areas, right? That's the universal service obligation. There's no way that that's going away. But I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, they make it a little harder, right? So people will have to travel a little longer to go to their local USPS facility to ship something, right? So it is likely that some of those things are going to get a little worse. I would assume also that that the mailing of packages is going to be a little slower. Even in the last couple of years, under the Louis DeJoy administration, things have slowed down a little bit. So I would assume that it would continue slowing down a little more under the government administration.
And one would presume the cost is going to go up as well.
Well, I mean, the cost has been going up and it continues to go up, but we got to remember that ultimately the USPS is also competing with UPS and FedEx, right? They can't just, raise, the rates, to $1,000 per package, because ultimately people will just say, well, I'm just not going to use USPS. So, yes, USPS rates will probably have to go up. As you said, they already have a positive net income, right? So that's good news.
This year, in the first quarter.
This year.
Yeah,
that's right. For the first time in more than 15 years. So it's true. So, but again, looks like it's getting in better shape, and they will likely still have to continue increasing rates. As you know, the mailing of packages and letters still continues to go down.
Sure.
So this is obviously a problem that's not just going away anytime soon.
Jesus, we don't have a lot of time, but other nations have privatized their mail service. How is it working for them?
It's working great, actually. So, we worry a little bit that we don't want the USPS to go away, and it probably won't go away. We probably will continue to have some type of universal service obligation mail delivery company. It's just maybe in a different fashion. So Germany and Japan did it. They did a privatization. They required that the mail organization continue keeping this universal service obligation. They have the retirement benefits all well covered. Everything works well, and people are generally happy in those countries with the privatization results. So it's not necessarily that this is going to be the end of the world for the U.S. It's not going to be the end of the world for the USPS either. I don't think that USPS will disappear. It will just be a little different, even if it is privatized, which, again, we don't know if it will be.
Interesting. Okay. Jesus Salas, we can't thank you enough. Associate Professor of Finance, Lehigh University. Good insight. Thank you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.